Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Professor Bourne glanced up from his mahogany desk, peering over wire-rimmed glasses at the figure hesitating in the doorway. "Come in, Stephen," he said, his voice calm and measured. "Please, have a seat." A young man with disheveled dark hair and haunted eyes shuffled into the room, his shoulders hunched as if carrying an invisible weight. He sank into the worn leather armchair across from the professor, his gaze darting nervously around the cluttered space. Professor Bourne leaned back, studying Stephen's face. "I understand this meeting is your last chance. Would you like to tell me about that?" Stephen's jaw clenched, his fingers digging into the armrests. "What's there to tell? I screwed up, again, and now they're threatening to kick me out of the program." "I see." Bourne nodded, his expression neutral. "And how do you feel about that?" A bitter laugh escaped Stephen's lips. "How do I feel? I feel like I'm drowning. Like no matter what I do, I can't get my head above water." The professor's eyes softened. "That must be a terrible burden to carry. Can you tell me more about what's weighing you down?" Stephen's gaze dropped to the floor, his voice barely above a whisper. "Everything. My whole life is just wrong. I don't fit anywhere. I never have." "When did you first start feeling this way?" Bourne probed gently. Stephen's brow furrowed as he searched his memories. "I don't know. Always, I guess. But it got worse after my parents." His voice trailed off, and Bourne nodded in understanding. "After your parents passed away, that must have been incredibly difficult for you." Stephen's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Yeah, that's when everything fell apart." "Can you tell me about what happened after that?" Bourne asked, his tone encouraging. Stephen took a shaky breath. "Foster care, one home after another. Never staying in one place long enough to belong." Bourne leaned forward, his voice gentle. "And how did that make you feel, Stephen?" "Angry!" Stephen spat, his fists clenching. "So damn angry. At everyone, at the world, at myself." "And that anger, did it ever lead to violence?" Bourne asked carefully. Stephen's jaw tightened, shame flashing across his face. "Yeah, more times than I can count. It's like I can't control it. Like there's this rage inside me, and I don't know how to let it out without hurting someone." Bourne nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Thank you for sharing that, Stephen. It takes courage to confront those difficult feelings and experiences." Stephen's shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of him. "Fat lot of good it does me now. I'm still screwed up. Still can't keep it together." "Perhaps," Bourne said, his tone measured. "But recognizing the problem is the first step towards finding a solution. Tell me, Stephen, have you ever considered that there might be more to your struggles than just anger and trauma?" Stephen's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" Bourne leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled. "In our sessions, I've noticed certain patterns in your behavior and thoughts. Have you ever felt uncomfortable in your own skin? Like your body doesn't quite match who you are inside?" Stephen's eyes widened, a flicker of recognition passing over his face. I don't know. Maybe. I've never really thought about it like that." "It's just a theory," Bourne said gently. "But based on what you've shared, I believe you may be experiencing gender dysphoria. It's a condition where a person's gender identity doesn't align with their biological gender." Stephen's breath caught in his throat. What are you saying?" "I'm suggesting that some of your inner turmoil might stem from a disconnect between who you are on the inside and how the world perceives you," Bourne explained. "It's not uncommon for individuals with gender dysphoria to experience intense feelings of anger, depression, and a sense of not belonging." Stephen's mind reeled, memories flooding back. The discomfort he'd always felt in his own body, the inexplicable envy he'd experienced watching girls his age, the way he'd always felt like an outsider among his male peers. I I don't know what to say."
"You don't have to say anything right now," Bourne assured him. "This is a lot to process, but I want you to know that if this resonates with you, there are options. Transitioning, living as the gender you identify with, can be a powerful way to address these feelings."
Stephen's voice trembled.
"Transitioning? You mean becoming a woman?" Bourne nodded. "It's a possibility, yes, but it's not a decision to be made lightly. It's a journey, one that requires careful consideration and support."
Stephen's mind raced, a mix of fear and something that felt strangely like hope churning in his stomach. I need time to think about this."
"Of course," Bourne said, his voice warm. "Take all the time you need.
We can explore this further in our future sessions if you'd like." As Stephen left the office that day, his world had been turned upside down. The idea that there might be a reason for his lifelong struggle, a path to understanding himself, was both terrifying and exhilarating. Over the next few weeks, Stephen threw himself into research, devouring every piece of information he could find on gender dysphoria and transitioning. He returned to Professor Bourne's office with a notebook full of questions and a heart full of conflicting emotions. "I can't stop thinking about what you said," Stephen admitted, his voice hoarse, "about gender dysphoria. The more I read, the more it makes sense." Bourne nodded encouragingly. "And how does that make you feel?" Stephen ran a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of wonder and fear.
"Scared, excited, confused. Like maybe there's a reason I've felt so wrong all these years." "Those are all valid feelings," Bourne assured him. "This is a significant realization. It's natural to feel overwhelmed."
Stephen's voice dropped to a whisper.
What if I want to try to transition?"
Bourne leaned forward, his expression serious.
"Then we'll take it one step at a time. There's no rush, Stephen. We can start small, explore what feels right for you." And so began Stephen's journey of self-discovery. With Bourne's guidance, he started experimenting with small changes, growing out his hair, trying on feminine clothing in the privacy of his room.
Each step felt like both a revelation and a challenge. As the weeks turned into months, Stephen's appearance began to shift. His features softened, his mannerisms became more fluid. And with each change, he felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. It was during one particularly emotional session that Stephen made a decision that would change everything. "I want to live as a woman," he said, his voice trembling but determined. "I want to be Adele." Bourne's eyes crinkled with a warm smile.
"Adele, it's a beautiful name. Are you ready to take that step?"
Adele nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I think I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it." The transition wasn't easy. There were moments of doubt, of fear, of overwhelming dysphoria. But with each passing day, Adele felt more like herself than she ever had before. She began hormone therapy, watching in awe as her body slowly transformed. She practiced her voice, learning to speak in a higher register that felt natural and right. She built a new wardrobe, reveling in the feel of soft fabrics and feminine silhouettes. But the internal changes were even more profound. The anger that had once consumed her began to fade, replaced by a sense of peace and self-acceptance. She found herself smiling more, laughing easier, connecting with others in ways she never had before. It wasn't all smooth sailing, of course. There were still difficult days, moments when the weight of her past threatened to drag her down. But now she had the tools to cope, to push through the darkness and find the light on the other side. As Adele's confidence grew, so did her ambitions. She threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor, determined to make the most of the second chance she'd been given. Her professors noticed the change, commenting on her improved focus and engagement. One day, as Adele sat in Professor Bourne's office, she realized just how far she'd come.
"I never thought I could feel this whole,"
she said, her voice filled with wonder.
"It's like I've finally found myself."
Bourne's eyes shone with pride.
"You've done the hard work, Adele. You've faced your fears and embraced your true self. That takes incredible courage.
Adele's smile was radiant. I couldn't have done it without your support. You saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. I merely pointed you in the right direction, Bourne said, shaking his head.
You're the one who took the journey.
As their session came to a close, Bourne leaned forward, his expression serious.
Adele, I want you to know how proud I am of your progress. You've come so far, and I believe you're ready for the next step in your transition, if that's something you want to pursue.
Adele's heart raced.
You mean gender reassignment surgery?
Bourne nodded.
It's a big decision, and not one to be taken lightly. But if you feel it's right for you, I believe you're in a good place emotionally and psychologically to consider it.
Adele took a deep breath, her mind whirling with possibilities.
I think I am ready. It feels like the final piece of the puzzle. Then let's start the process,
Bourne said with a warm smile.
We'll take it one step at a time, just like we've done with everything else.
The months leading up to the surgery were a whirlwind of preparations, consultations, and moments of both excitement and fear. Adele threw herself into research, wanting to be as informed as possible about what to expect. The day of the surgery arrived, and as Adele was wheeled into the operating room, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. This was right. This was who she was meant to be. When she woke up in recovery, groggy and sore, but filled with an indescribable sense of rightness, she knew she had made the right decision. The road to recovery was long and sometimes painful, but with each passing day, Adele felt more and more like her true self. As she healed, both physically and emotionally, Adele began to think about her future. She had spent so long just trying to survive, to understand herself, that she had never really considered what she wanted to do with her life. With Professor Bourne's encouragement, she began to explore different career paths. She discovered a passion for psychology, inspired by the impact that therapy and understanding had had on her own life. Adele threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor, determined to use her own experiences to help others who were struggling. She volunteered at support groups for transgender individuals, sharing her story and offering hope to those just beginning their journeys. As she neared the end of her undergraduate studies, Adele made the decision to apply to graduate programs in clinical psychology. The day she received her first acceptance letter, she rushed to Professor Bourne's office, her face glowing with excitement. "I did it!" she exclaimed, waving the letter. "I got in!" Bourne's face split into a wide grin. "Adele, that's wonderful news! I knew you could do it!" As they sat together, discussing Adele's future plans, she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. "I never would have made it this far without you," she said softly. "You saved my life." Bourne shook his head, his eyes warm. "You saved your own life, Adele. I just helped you find the tools to do it." As Adele prepared to embark on the next chapter of her life, she couldn't help but marvel at how far she'd come. From a troubled young man filled with anger and confusion to a confident, successful woman pursuing her dreams, it was a transformation she never could have imagined. But the journey wasn't over. As Adele knew all too well, life was full of challenges and surprises. But now she faced them with a strength and resilience she had fought hard to cultivate. The years passed, and Adele's life continued to unfold in ways she never could have predicted. She excelled in her graduate studies, her unique perspective and empathy making her a standout student. Her professors often remarked on her intuitive understanding of human nature and her ability to connect with even the most challenging clients. After graduation, Adele secured a position at a community mental health center, where she quickly became known for her compassionate approach and her ability to create a safe space for her clients. She watched with pride as young people who had come to her lost and afraid began to blossom, finding the courage to be their authentic selves. But even as she helped others, Adele continued to work on herself. She maintained regular sessions with Professor Bourne, now more as a mentor and friend than a therapist. They would often discuss challenging cases, with Bourne offering guidance and support as Adele navigated the complexities of her new career. It was during one of these sessions that Adele realized just how much her life had changed. As she sat in the familiar office discussing a particularly difficult case, she caught a glimpse of herself in the reflection of a picture frame. The woman looking back at her was confident, poised, and utterly at peace with herself.
"Is everything all right?"
Bourne asked, noticing her sudden distraction. Adele smiled, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. "Yes, I never thought I'd be here. Doing this work, feeling so right in my own skin." Bourne's expression softened.
"You've come a long way, Adele. You should be proud of everything you've accomplished."
"I am," she said softly. "But I'm also grateful for you, for this journey, for all the people who supported me along the way." As she left Bourne's office that day, Adele felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that her own struggles had given her a unique ability to connect with and help others, and she was determined to make the most of that gift. In the years that followed, Adele's career flourished. She became a respected voice in the field of gender identity and mental health, presenting at conferences and contributing to academic journals. She never shied away from sharing her own story, using it as a powerful tool to educate and inspire others. But it wasn't just her professional life that thrived. Adele found herself building deep, meaningful relationships with friends and colleagues. She even began to cautiously explore the world of dating, something she had never felt comfortable doing before her transition. It was at a professional conference that Adele met someone who would change her life once again. Dr. Olivia Chen was a brilliant neuroscientist studying the biological basis of gender identity. They connected over a shared passion for their work and soon found themselves engrossed in conversation long after the conference sessions had ended. As they continued to stay in touch, Adele found herself drawn to Olivia's quick wit, compassionate nature, and unwavering dedication to her research. For the first time in her life, she felt the stirrings of true romantic attraction. Their relationship blossomed slowly, built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared values. Olivia was endlessly patient as Adele navigated the unfamiliar territory of intimacy and vulnerability. Together, they created a partnership that was both intellectually stimulating and emotionally fulfilling. As Adele's personal and professional lives flourished, she never forgot the long and difficult journey that had brought her to this point. She continued to volunteer her time at support groups and mentorship programs, determined to be for others what Professor Bourne had been for her, a beacon of hope and understanding in times of darkness. One particularly memorable moment came when Adele was invited to speak at her old university. As she stood at the podium looking out at a sea of faces, some curious, some skeptical, some openly supportive, she felt a surge of emotion. 10 years ago, she began, her voice strong and clear, I sat where you're sitting now, lost and angry and so desperately alone. I couldn't imagine a future for myself, let alone one where I would be standing here today, living authentically and doing work that I love. She paused, her eyes scanning the audience. My journey hasn't been easy. There were times when I wanted to give up, when the pain and fear seemed too much to bear. But I'm here to tell you that it gets better, that you are worthy of love and acceptance exactly as you are, that your struggles don't define you, but they can give you the strength and empathy to change the world. As she finished her speech, the auditorium erupted in applause. Adele felt a wave of gratitude wash over her, not just for the reception of her words, but for every step of the journey that had brought her to this moment. Later that evening, as she recounted the experience to Olivia over dinner, Adele found herself overwhelmed by emotion once again. What is it, love? Olivia asked, reaching across the table to take her hand. Adele smiled through her tears. I never thought I could be this happy, this whole. I spent so many years feeling like I was living a lie, and now you're changing lives. Olivia finished for her, her eyes shining with pride.
You're using your experiences to make the world a little bit better, one person at a time.
Adele nodded, squeezing Olivia's hand. I couldn't have done it without you, without all the people who believed in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. Thanks for watching. Check out Patreon if you want to have early access to the other parts. If not, it will be online in a couple of days.